Let's get scratching.
Welcome back to the Game or Die podcast. I am your host, Ryan Moore, and I just want to get right into games. Okay, so for episode 32, I am struggling to find games to play, unfortunately. There has been not a whole lot of games being released. There have been a few, which is really nice, and it's all come around the same time as it normally does in this year, which is E3 time, and I don't want to talk about it too much. I actually did a blog post about it, so if you want to go check out gameordie.net and actually read some written words about how I feel about E3 and why it needs to exist, probably not in its current form, unfortunately, because it's just kind of a mess, but because of all this crap that has happened, we don't have E3 this year, and it came and went the time frame that I normally and everyone would normally get super excited about games. And what we got is we are still in the middle of companies releasing information about their games, about new consoles, which is insane to me that it is the beginning of August now, and we have no idea how these consoles actually really look and feel, and what they're priced at, and when they're going to be released, what the dashboards look like, or we have no tactile information about any of this stuff that is literally only a few months away at this point. And the reason why, I'll give a short blurb about this before I actually get into the games that I want to talk about, but E3 really does need to exist. A lot of people, mostly game journalists and the media, like to hate on E3 as a thing because it's work for them. And they hate flying out to LA, which who can blame them? LA blows. Hey, I live basically around LA, so I know Southern California just basically sucks. I've lived here most of my life, so I get to talk crap about it. But they basically hate E3 from the way that they talk about it. You can just get a feeling of disdain for it from these people. And it's a bummer, too, because E3 can be and has been super exciting, really interesting, a lot of good information, great experiences. I personally have gone to E3 quite a few times back in the late aughts, early 2010s, and the last time I went was 2016, and I miss it, man. And the reason why I stopped going is because I kind of stopped caring. Because of the decline of E3, how it became more and more and more of a, you have to have meetings behind closed doors. You have to set all this stuff up weeks in advance, because they started letting more of the public in at that point. And at that point, it was kind of just, a mesh of what I believe PAX is like, and also a industry event. And it just didn't work. There was so many less things that were really unique and interesting, and it just became more of a, hey, let's make everyone wait for everything, instead of this big open, huge convention center of tons and tons and tons of games, prizes, food, beverages, swag, all these booth babes, all these huge intricate designs for these booths. All of that started to deteriorate in the last several years, to the point where E3 is basically nothing like it used to be. And that's where I think a lot of people have been hating on it and wanting it to go away. But now that it went away, you can really see why it actually does need to exist. It is something that is It's like a glue. E3 is basically like a glue that holds everything together. When you have E3 as a world industry event, the big one basically, that's where everyone comes. And that's where everyone has all that information in that very short time window of 4 or 5 days roughly. It used to just be 3, and then it was 4, and then it was 5. And, these press conferences started becoming earlier the week prior, on the weekend before E3. And, it just started ballooning out into where everyone realized, especially Sony, they were Nintendo kind of was the pioneer of, hey, we're not doing a press conference on stage. We're just going to do videos and release it as our press conference. And the Nintendo Directs are great for the most part, but you need to have that type of consistency throughout the entire presentation. And with a lot of stuff in the last several years, like I think 2 years ago, they did the Nintendo Direct for E3, which was literally over like half an hour, which was the majority of the entire video. That was just dedicated to a single game, Smash Brothers Ultimate. Yeah, I get Smash Brothers is a big game for a lot of people, but to devote the majority, like literally 90% of your press conference to here's Smash Brothers. If you don't care about Smash Brothers, tough luck. It was difficult to sit through. So E3 is like this glue that brings everyone together and holds everyone together and kind of accountable for a few, days, maybe a week or two. Now, because it's been gone, you can see how unmanaged, unplanned all this stuff is. No one is talking to anyone else because everyone's doing their own thing. And you get overlapping information times where everyone says, well, we don't need E3. We can do this on our own. We can control the press cycle and we can control all the news and when everyone's going to be talking about it. So no one's going to be talking about anything else like at E3 because they're just going to be talking about us. Unfortunately, because no one plans around other people, no one is talking to other people, you get overlapping quote unquote press conferences. You get overlapping videos. You get overlapping press releases and news information where now the whole point of getting away, the quote unquote getting away from it and controlling it is now you have no control whatsoever. You just say, I'm going to put this thing out there, which same thing. You were able to do that before. And yes, E3 costs a ton of money that is really unnecessary for a lot of companies too. And this is where I think it needs to be a hand-in-hand type of give a little, take a little, a bit of compromise with E3. It cannot just be industry only. It has to be a fan event as well. It cannot only be just strictly, here it is, at the convention center. It has to be online as well. And there is no reason for a lot of these companies to have these gigantic booths that spend millions of dollars, setting up and tearing down and flying out for, if they're not going to show something and it's not going to be public. I remember going to E3 when a couple years before, what was it? It was BioShock Infinite came out. And I actually met Ken Levine, which was really, really cool, and got a couple pictures with him and talked to him for a few minutes. Really cool. Behind closed doors scenes of and gameplay demonstration. One of the devs was actually playing the game, and they're talking about it. But that didn't have to be a behind the closed door thing. It could have been available to everyone as a video. And unfortunately, it was later on, like a week and a half, 2 weeks later, they basically released the exact same thing that was happening on this demo that I sat in a room with Ken Levine and a couple other devs, and they were talking about BioShock Infinite. I saw the same thing. Everyone saw the same thing that I did just a couple weeks later. Why did they have to have a big old songbird statue and all this stuff for the few thousand people that actually got to be there at the event? It was unnecessary in that way. And I think a lot of people would be feeling the exact same way as I am, where it's like, why does this need to be physically only event. It doesn't need to be. Make it online. And yeah, you get the press conferences, but that's about it. That's literally all there is pretty much is press conferences. There's no blocks on Twitch or whatever. But again, I mean, there is now, but it is also jumbled. There's no one thing. And if you look at how E3 was going to be this year, right before it got canceled officially, it was a mess. And people need to realize you have to have compromises, especially with this stuff. There's no sense in trying to do it yourself and trying to do it one single way when you just can't. And it's way worse now. This year sucks in terms of game releases and in terms of information releases for a console year. 2 of the biggest consoles are releasing in just a few months, and we have no idea when they're coming out. We have no idea what the price is going to be. We really don't know any of the actual games coming out, except for a small select few. We don't know launch titles at this point in August, and these things are coming in November. Like, that's insane. And it's all because, not because E3 doesn't exist, it's because everyone is not willing to do their thing. And I'll move on in just a second, but the one thing that really bothered me was Microsoft's quote-unquote press conferences, their information presentations about the Xbox Series X is all over the place. They had a separate video event for a third party back in March. They had a second and separate video event just a couple weeks ago for first party stuff. And all it was, and this is, again, a thing that I'll rant about at some other point, but most of what it was just crappy CGI trailers that have nothing to do with the actual game. Here's the thing, like, take Fable for existence. The closing thing for Microsoft's first-party stuff was Fable, and it was a CGI trailer of a big gigantic frog eating a fairy, and then it says Fable. That means nothing. That doesn't describe or show me what the game is going to be, because the game doesn't exist yet, as far as I know, in a real thing. That game is going to be coming out in 2 years at the earliest. That game doesn't barely have an engine, probably. And showing a trailer saying, here's Fable, that's it. We've got Fable coming. When? Who knows? It might get canceled like 1,000 other million games do. So we're not even guaranteed it. So why even waste your breath on that? Show me games that are coming out that I can buy on launch day, and that's all I need to know. Maybe do like a sizzle reel type of thing of games that are going to come out later on after the launch window or during the launch window. Do some very quick, hey, my name is, blank, and I'm from this developer, and we're starting and working on a creative new title, or we're working on Fable, and we can't wait to show it to you, but we just wanted to give you a heads up to be excited for that when it comes out. I mean, maybe I'm just seeing it differently than everyone else, but why waste your time telling me about something I cannot actively buy within the next 2 years? Why? There's no point. Make it a press release. Say, hey, everyone. Hey, Kotaku. Hey, Polygon. We're making a new Fable game. It's confirmed. Done. That's it. That's literally the thing. So everyone knows, all right, cool. We can stop writing speculation or reviews or rumor mills type stuff. We can stop all arguing online of if they are or are not ever going to revive the Fable franchise. Just say plainly, yes, we are making it. We don't know when it'll be finished. It's a couple years off. Done. There's no reason to make a CGI trailer. How many millions of dollars did that Fable trailer actually cost? That's what I want to know. Because I guarantee you it wasn't a couple thousand. It was probably $1 million at least. $1 million. I could be very, very 50,000, 100,000. I don't know if it was a single person who worked on it, multiple people who worked on it, a team of maybe 50 people who worked on it. I have no idea. And I don't know how long it took, but I guarantee you it took longer than it should have. It cost much more than it should have because it didn't need to be anything. There is zero reason to say, hey, here's this big old thing and tough luck, you're going to have to wait a couple of years. There's no point in that. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go ranting, but like I said, I really am very bummed out by how E3 didn't happen this year. It was a mess all the way leading up until a few weeks before E3 was supposed to go on, or like maybe less. I think it was less than a month. And it got canceled and everyone went, oh, that sucks. And there was a lot of people going, good. And I went, why? It's going to be terrible. And it was awful. So like I said, if you want to read a more concise thing, less of a rant and more of a, hey, this is why E3 is actually interesting, go read it on my blog on gameordie.net. So the reason why I'm recording right now and not a couple, like later on this week, is because I don't have a whole lot to talk about because there's not really a whole lot of games to talk about. A few games that I've been playing, but they were all pretty short for the most part. The first thing I want to talk about actually just came out a few days ago, and it's something that I've talked about multiple times. So again, I'll try and keep it concise as much as possible. Red Dead Redemption 2. Phenomenal game. I love it. And they haven't had an update for quite a while. And everyone was getting really, really antsy about, hey, when's the new update coming out for Red Dead Online? And I got really into the online portion of that game last year. And it was because they updated it and the PC version came out. It came out with a new role for online. And now they have a new update with a new role. And it's called the Naturalist update. And they also have a new Outlaw Pass or kind of their Season Pass, whatever. And I really want to get into it. I started it up. I paid for everything with the online currency that I had built up and saved, which it's really not that hard to accumulate. You just have to be consistent about it. I'll talk about the update and then the Season Pass. So the update is the Naturalist update that added 2 new characters, basically, who are more survivalist and a crazy. They're kind of like a crazy herbalist type of person where they believe in tracking animals and never killing. And then there's another guy who is kind of the rival of that person, which is a fur trader, and he makes all these coats out of these wild animals that you bring him. So you can get more cosmetic items by this fur trader, and you can hunt or track and gain information about animals with this other one. And unfortunately, this role feels more like just an add-on to the hunter-gatherer type of role that they had, which no one likes and everyone hates to begin with. So having another one just dealing with tracking animals and stuff just kind of sucks. I have not gotten into it enough to be able to give an honest opinion about it, but it is something that I started playing and I got really excited about. But once I started playing, I was just like, dude, I don't have the time. I've only got a couple days here before I'm back on the road for another couple of weeks. And it's just, I don't have the time to devote to Red Dead Online when there's a couple other games that I've got actively playing. So the Outlaw Pass, which is their season pass type thing, which is you spend in-game currency to unlock this new XP, chain of events. And as you go through the game and do all this new stuff, you get XP and you unlock more cool new things for it. And it's only for a limited time. It's until the end of October, middle of October, I believe, which is a bummer because it's 40 gold for that. And gold's kind of hard to get unless, like I said, you are consistent with the game. You log in and do some form of the daily activities or daily objectives, and you'll get a little points of gold, basically 0.10%, or 0.10 gold, 0.20 gold, 0.30 gold. And as you do it and you log in every day and you can keep a consistent login and objective accumulation of just at least one, you will rack up multipliers for your gold accumulation. So if you do all the daily, the daily quests and grind a little bit, I guess, you can actually get a ton of gold. I got like 500 gold when that game first came out, and I just started doing online every day for just like a month and a half, 2 months. I had a crap ton of gold. I put a lot of hours in. That's probably the game I've spent the most time in at this point is Red Dead Online, because I've never played a game for more than just a couple hundred hours. I think Witcher 3, doing every single thing, 100% completion in a game was the max. And that was at about 170 hours with everything completed in the single player game. Every, objective, every task, every question mark, everything. And then all the DLCs with everything as well. Devoured that game. And it was like 170-ish hours, somewhere around there, to complete it. Red Dead, I haven't tracked, but over the course of, since that game came out on Xbox One, I played, I think, like 90 hours of it for the full game plus a little bit of online. And then I upped it to like 110 hours maybe, plus online. And then last year, PC version came out, and I've added another at least 100 hours to it. So I've actually played that game for longer than any other game I've ever played in my life. I'm not this person who plays games for thousands of hours or anything like that. But it's a cool update. It adds more animals and interesting stuff to do. I just don't know how much I'm actually going to do it, or if I have time. That's really the thing. I'm so busy with work that I'm traveling like nonstop. I'm only home for a couple days at a time. Once a week, and then I'm off on the weekend. So in just a couple hours here, I'm heading down to San Diego for 5 days and coming back, and then being home for a couple days and then heading out to LA or Simi Valley for another. It's just, my schedule's insane. So that is Red Dead Online. After the break, I will talk about more games that I've been playing, but again, it's getting hot in this audio booth, so I'll come back and I'll play some music and then talk about some more games.
Kick, punch, it's all in the mind. If you wanna test me, I'm sure you'll find the things I'll teach ya. Be sure to beat ya. Nevertheless, you'll get a lesson from teacher. Now kick,
Kick,
punch,
punch,
chop,
chop,
block.
block,
Once more now, kick,
kick,
punch,
punch,
chop,
chop,
and block.
block,
Don't get cocky, it's gonna get rocky. We're gonna move down to the next jockey. Now duck,
duck,
jump,
jump,
turn,
turn,
pause. Listen
Pause.
carefully, jump,
jump,
pause,
pause,
duck,
duck,
and turn.
turn,
Yeah, I see you're getting better. Kick to the limit in order to get her. Now kick, punch,
kick, punch,
chop, block,
chop, block,
chop, kick,
chop, kick,
punch, block.
punch, block,
Gonna get harder now, duck and jump,
duck, jump,
turn and pause,
turn, pose,
duck and turn,
duck, turn,
jump and pause.
jump, pose,
Come on now, why don't you follow my words, because we're almost done. I'll make it easier first. I wanna see if you wanna see what it means to be the man with a master plan. Are you the man now? Here we go now, kick, punch, block,
kick, punch, block,
chop, kick, block,
chop, kick, block,
block, duck and kick it.
block, turn, kick,
it's for today. Good job, Parappa. You can go on to the next stage now.
Yahoo! All right.
All right, so the next game that I want to talk about is Super Hot Mind Control Delete. And this one's weird. Super Hot's been a game for the last several years, came out in 2015, 2016, somewhere around there, the original. And basically it's time, quote unquote, only moves when you move. So if you stand still, time stops, which is actually not the case. If you play that game at all, don't touch the controller. Watch stuff move and happen while you're not moving at all. It's weird that the entire premise is based around what even the game says time doesn't move unless you move. Time stops when you stop. But that's not the case. It's always moving. It's just very, 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 very slow when you don't move. So that bothers me because, hey, at least be truthful or talk about it right when you're talking about it, like the main mechanic. But anyways, Super Hot, cool game. I love it. Very short, about 2 hours long from what I remember. I only played through it once because, again, I don't play a lot of games and continue to play them after I've finished them. If it's a game that really, really grips me, then yes, I'll play more of it. But I usually play through everything in one go. I very rarely ever go back to a game. So I played through Super Hot, loved it. And then they announced a VR version back in 2016, 2017. And I loved it in VR. I think it's a really, really, really good VR game. It's probably in the top 5 VR games out there right now. So Super Hot VR came out, and then a little bit after VR, the VR version came out, they announced that they're going to do a new Super Hot game, and it was going to be in early access. And I was intrigued. No VR, just another Super Hot game, but it's in early access, and they were basically saying it's a run-based game. So you see how far you can get before you die, and you start over. And so I bought it way back when it was announced because I wanted more Super Hot, but I wanted something new. So I bought it. I played, I think, maybe a level or two, and went, yeah, this is more Super Hot. And that was pretty much it. Like there was like 2 or 3 levels, and that was it. So I put it on the back burner. I said, I'm going to wait until this game is officially released. So lo and behold, a couple weeks ago, it finally got released. And I really, really, really enjoy what they did with this game. And I'm not a run-based gamer. Like, I don't like those types of games. But I think it was very unique on the way that they did it. Basically, what they did is you start out playing through a block of levels. You got 5 levels. Or sorry, like 3 or 4 levels. And you play through it like normal Super Hot. Once you finish it, you unlock a new set of levels to play through. And you unlock basically a power to start out the block of levels with. So you can, get a gun, at the start of every level. Makes things a little bit easier to progress through the next block of levels. So you got one main starting power up that you can choose from. And as you go through the game, you unlock more starting power ups. But you also unlock a pool of selectable power ups as you progress through the block of levels. So start out the game, you got 3 levels to get through. No power-ups, no nothing, you just go through them. Then you unlock a starting power-up. So you start every level with a gun, and you do that. And then, as you progress through the next set of levels, 4, 5, 6, whatever it is, you actually are able to unlock another special power-up that coincides usually with your base starting level up or power up. And it's really unique. So basically, like, if you get hurt, you have a set of lives. It's not just a one-hit kill thing. You got a set of lives or hearts, and you try and get through the block of levels in one run. You can get hit 2 or 3 times, but after you finish like 2 or 3 levels, you get a special, a choice of, hey, do you want to regain all your hearts back so that you can try and finish this? Or do you want to start every level with a gun and also, have more bullets? You only have 3 bullets in a gun, but now you got 5 bullets or whatever it is. And so it's a really, really interesting idea on a first-person run-based game, like a first-person shooter game. And man, it is super fun, but it's really hard at some point. And this is why I don't like run-based games like this very much, is there is a lot of random luck involved, random number generators, where you might just get really crappy choices for power-ups throughout the levels. So you might be get hit on the first or second level and you need to regain your hearts, but you don't have that option because it just never shows up. You might get really crappy options or power-ups, and it's not going to help you. You need something more. So there's a lot of random number generating going on. There's a lot of random chance happening with this game, which it's also a difficult game. Super Hot is normally fairly easy for the most part. Like I said, I beat that original game in 2 hours. I think the VR version's even shorter. I think I beat it in like an hour, maybe 90 minutes. I can't remember. It's been so many years. But this game, holy crap, like the first set of levels is easy. That was a piece of cake. I walked through those cakewalk, and I was like, wow, why? I'm kind of bummed that this is that easy. Like, I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun, but I wasn't really being challenged very much. But then it ramped up difficulty, and it was like, holy crap, I'm getting some really bad choice rolls here. I'm getting the enemy spawns are always different and things like that too. So it is very, very difficult at some point. And I really wish that there was maybe a difficulty meter, because I'm on the last set of levels where I got maybe, if I could beat the block set of levels, I probably have 2 more sets of 10 levels each. And they take roughly about 45 seconds to a minute, maybe a minute and a half or 2 minutes, depending on what it is. But as you get further into the game, more enemies start showing up, more weapons start showing up that are harder to defeat. Enemies aren't just fully red, so you can't just hit them or shoot them anywhere. Some of them are armored, where only a leg or arm or hand is able to be shot or hurt so that they die. It is insane. And then at the very, very, very end, where I am now, you have boss characters basically who will show up as you're playing through a level, and they are unkillable. So it's kind of like Spelunky in a way. Spelunky, if you spend too much time in one of the mazes, a ghost shows up and it will kill you. So you have to go fast through this stuff. You cannot just take your time. And it gets really, really, really difficult and terrifying, because there's these characters, one's like a wolf and will just run super fast and charge at you. One has a samurai, like a katana, that he can basically force throw and retrieve. And if you have, all these weapons and you try and shoot him or kill him or stab them, they do not die. They are impervious to damage. So they are just chasing you. They're just as fast as you. I think sometimes even faster, some a little bit slower. And you are being chased while having to dodge all these bullets and knives and explosions and all this stuff and kill all the people so that you can end the level. It gets really, really difficult and kind of a little terrifying, to be honest. So I really like it. I'm at the very end, but I've been so busy I haven't had time to sit down and play it for an extended period of time like I've wanted to. And when I do have those little times, like, super late at night on the weekend, I'm not mentally prepared for it. Like, you gotta really focus in on it, and I kind of want to relax a little bit. So I really think it's fun, but it is just a little bit too difficult in some parts. There's been a couple other games that I've been playing, a lot smaller games. Some games on Gamepass, which I think is a phenomenal deal right now. I'll talk about a couple that I haven't finished. There is a game called Forager, which is a really interesting game that I've kind of wanted to check out since it came out, like last year, 2 years ago. And it became free on Game Pass. So I downloaded and installed it. And for the first hour or so, I wasn't really enjoying it all that much. I thought it was kind of boring, but it was something where I just wanted something mindless to play. So I kept at it. And then I got really into it, but it's kind of weird. It's an interesting game where it's a little Minecrafty, where you are gathering resources and crafting certain things. It's got a little bit of Kingdom of Keflings for it as well, where you're building certain things in a set area. I like it a lot, but I need to spend more time with it. Another game that I really started just playing and enjoyed it. I probably put maybe 15, 20 minutes into this yesterday. Golf with Your Friends. Again, another Game Pass game. And I was like, oh, I've heard of that. It sounds interesting. So I threw it in. It's a mini golf game, but it's supposed to be more online based. I'm not into that, but it's fine for what it is. I'll never finish it. I don't see a reason why. I got, out of that 15, 20 minutes, I got most of what that game is. And I think some of the stuff that they do later on courses with like power-ups and stuff like that are really cool. But it seems like a very kind of time-consuming game for what it is. A mini golf game, but it takes forever to load up, have the ball stop, shoot. And it's not something that I want to stick with. I think I probably won't ever play it again. And if I do, it will probably be for another 5 or 10 minutes and then uninstall it and never play it again. But again, something I just kind of wanted to say, hey, I played this because it was fun. The next game I want to talk about is, it's a free game. It came out a couple weeks ago called Devolverland Expo. This one's super weird. Devolver is the publisher of it, and basically what it is, instead of an E3 press conference, they opted to make a video game. And I thought that was super, super interesting because the reason why is because it actually takes place in the fictional Los Angeles Convention Center where E3 happens every year. And so you start out in a first-person point of view, and you walk up to the LA Convention Center. It's got a big old sign saying, gaming convention canceled, blah, blah, blah. And so you hack the security door to go inside, and they got all the booths and, all this crazy stuff going on. And it basically is like a E3, lookalike that is all there. The whole reason this whole game exists is to show off trailers for their games that are coming out. So Carrion, West for Dead or whatever, Blightbound, and a couple other games. And what you do is you try to, very light puzzle solving. It takes about half an hour to finish. And you just walk around these makeshift E3 booths that are really, really interesting. So I thought it was super cool that a game company that says, oh crap, what are we going to do for E3? Oh crap, it's canceled. Now what are we going to do? They opted to create this weird little Unity game that takes half an hour to beat. And, you get to kind of experience what E3 kind of is like. Big, massive booths, that are just kind of teeming with, creativity and sound effects and, animatronics. For the most part, it's very unrealistic as well, where, you don't have gigantic tentacles, or you don't have, these booths that are, half an acre big and stuff like that. It's nothing like that. So if you play this game, it's not a one-to-one comparison. It's a very over-exaggerated creative version of E3, but you get the gist of it. You get the idea of, hey, this is a convention. Here's a bunch of computers where people play these games. And it's a really unique way to make the best out of a bad situation. And I'll take that over, anything else any day of the week, because they're being creative with it. And it might not be awesome. It might be a little hokey. There's a boss fight at the end, which is ridiculous. It's not hard at all. There's no way to really die. You just kind of respawn if you get caught by the security bots. Again, there's no security bots at E3, but it's really interesting. And again, I'd take that any time over, just, hey, here's a crappy CGI trailer. So I thought that was really interesting, and I would love to see more developers and publishers, showcase their games in unique and, creative ways instead of just doing the same old thing. I couldn't be happier with that stupid free game. It was so fun to play. Just from hey, why don't others do this? Why has this never been done before? It's so cool. So the next game I want to talk about, again, another free game called Sludge Life. This was on the Epic Game Store. Came out and they said, hey, here's a free game. And no one really talked about it either. Like one or two sites I think I saw talk about it. But this one, man, again, there's just some games that don't really gel with me from the mindset of what the game is. And this is one of them. It's very, there's two words that I would describe Sludge Life: grimy and gross. And the title, Sludge Life, is kind of gives you a good idea of what the game kind of it feels like. It's very grimy and gross. It's very sludgy feeling, and it's this whole aesthetic of games trying to be representations of what it I think is like to take drugs. I don't find that interesting in the least bit, but some others do, I guess. And it feels like everything's in a haze with this game. The camera is fisheyed a little bit. The graphics are all aliased. Everything has a very crappy filter on it, or a couple filters applied. So it's very hazy. It's very aliased. It feels like someone smeared some Vaseline on the camera. And it has this like daze to it, like where nothing feels exactly real. It's almost kind of like a dream-like state. And I don't really enjoy that. Hotline Miami is, I love that game, but everything about the title sequence, when you just load up that title sequence and it's got this like lazy, guitar riff to it, where it just feels like you're, you're laying in a bed, smoking opium, That's what it feels like to play those games. And I don't enjoy that. And I think there's a really interesting little indie game buried underneath this, drug like aesthetic that I don't like. And I don't understand why people gravitate towards it so much. It kind of sucks. It's like a crappy, like, ugh, no one wants to be here. Why are we here type of feeling to it. It's a game where, again, it's another first person game. This is more platforming. Basically what you are is you're a graffitiist. You're a kid who does a lot of graffiti, and you tag. Man, I couldn't think of the word for a second there. So you tag a bunch of walls and murals and stuff like that, and you just paint your kind of logo. You're named Ghost, and you go around this town that is kind of like an oil derrick. The whole landscape is just oil, as far as the eye can see, and everything's on platforms and shipping containers and all this stuff. And you're platforming around all this little town, and all the other tagger friends go, "Yo, what's up, Ghost? How's it going?" Or, "Hey, you're that new kid, Ghost. You've been tagging some stuff, huh?" And you just kind of play the game by tagging a bunch of stuff. And you collect, I can't remember if you collect spray paint or you find areas where you are allowed to spray paint, and you make your tag. And there's a ton of them. There's about, I think, at least 50 in the game. And it's a more platforming. I would liken it to something like Grow Home, which was another super cool game. I highly suggest Grow Home. But it was like Grow Home with Jet Set Radio or Jet Grind Radio, whatever you want to call it. And it's a really interesting type of game. The UI for it, the pause menu, and it does have a lot of style to it. It's got this thing where you have these power-ups that allow you to glide to areas that were unattainable before. You've got a little jump jet and stuff like that. Like it's a cool little game, and especially for something free. Like, I can't really complain for like the 2+ hours that it took for me to beat it. But again, it's a free to play game, it was a free game. I don't know if it's still free or not. I think they were saying by the end of the year it'll be free, and then afterwards, then you got to buy it. But it's on the Epic Games Store, and for what it is, it's kind of cool. Another game I wanted to play, and I was really excited for it when it first was announced, is Carrion. Carrion is this game where you play as this monster, and they call it a reverse horror game, which I get. I think it's kind of a dumb genre title, but it is basically, instead of running away from the monster, you actually play the monster. It's a 2D side-scroller, Metroidvania type game where you only can progress so far until you get a certain power-up that will allow you to progress further. I was really excited for this game when it got announced, and they actually put a demo out a couple years ago for the Extra Life. That's where I saw it, but it was for on Steam. They said, "Hey, we're gonna throw out a bunch of new game demos so that you can kind of see what we're doing." And there was a demo for this, I think a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. I cannot remember. But when it finally got released, I was like, "Oh, that game looked cool." I really liked the demo for what it was. So I decided that I was going to buy it, but when it got released, it was $20. And I was like, "Oh man, I don't know." And I went back and forth on, should I buy this or not? And I was really about to. I was probably about 2 minutes away from buying this game for $20 on Steam. And then I saw a forum post about, "Hey, Carrion's out, and it's on Game Pass. And I went, no way, really? So I loaded up Game Pass, and sure enough, it was right there to download. It said install. So I saved myself $20, which I was super, super thankful for. Man, if a game has come out, I'm immediately checking to see if it's on Game Pass, because I think I'll do a blog post about this maybe later on this week in the hotel room that I'm staying at. But Game Pass is really, really, really cool. It is just a fantastic deal. But so I got this on Game Pass. I loaded it up. I'm super excited. You are this big, fleshy, dripping blood monster that I think is more like Carnage from Marvel and like the monster from the season 3 of Stranger Things. When, the kids are in the hospital and they're like 11 and everyone is being chased by this, monster. It's like dripping blood and oozing and just filthy and gross. That is basically what this monster is, with a little bit of carnage put into it too, because it can shapeshift and all this stuff. And holy crap, this game has some really fun mechanic to it. Like just moving around as the blob or as the monster is just super interesting. It feels really cool, and it's very floaty in the way it does it, because basically you're this blob with a billion tentacles or prehensile tentacles that kind of just move and pulsate. And you've got a bunch of mouths on your character too, so razor sharp teeth and all this stuff. Your whole goal, the whole premise of this game is you are this monster in a government facility. You break out of your containment unit and you are trying to escape. That's it. That's literally the entire story. It's not spoken at all. There's no text. There's no voiceover. There's no anything. There is no story other than what I just said, which is a big bummer, because there needs to be a little bit more to this game. It takes about 4 hours to complete. And I say about 4 hours because I think it took me a little over 4 hours because I got lost. There's 2 major issues with this game. One is that there's no story, so you don't really know why you're doing anything. There's nothing to propel you other than you need to get out of this underground government facility. The second thing is it's a Metroidvania and you have to traverse this map, but there's no in-game map. You have to go through this entire game without knowing exactly where you are. And it's really hard to do because the movement, although it feels really cool, is kind of a little bit hard to do and maneuver your character, because as you progress through the game, you get more power-ups, you become bigger. You eat characters, you get bigger. And when you get bigger, it's harder to move around. And you are moving around through this government facility in vents and pipes and waterways and tunnels and caves and all this stuff. And it's kind of a little bit hard to maneuver around. Also, you are moving your character in a way that takes a little bit of time to get from one area to the other, and every area looks very, very similar to each other. Not only that, but this game has portals that you pop in and out of to get to different areas of the main game map, but there is no physical way for you to know where you are in the actual level. You can be up at the top right, you can be at the bottom left, and you have no idea because nothing actually connects. It just teleports you. You go into a little portal and then screen fades to black, pops back up, and then you're in a new area. And you don't know where that is connected to from there's no relevance to it. So it makes it really, really, really hard to be able to understand where you are in the game. So if you need to go all the way back to a certain area, like the forest area, or you need to go to the staff facility area, you don't know how to get there because the game does such a poor job of telling you where you are, and it doesn't give you an in-game map. That is the most frustrating thing about this game. The other thing that is a knock against it, but it's still just, it's part of the game, is, like I said, the game's 4 hours long. You can beat it in a sitting or two, depending on, how long you want to play the game for. But it is about 2 hours too long. That game should have been a tight 2-hour experience, and it would have been perfect. Even with the no map, it would have been much more bearable because it would have been shorter. But because this game is 4 hours long and there is no story and there is no map, and yeah, the abilities you get, the power-ups that you get throughout the game are really interesting and fun, there's not a whole lot to them other than, hey, you did that. You get these power-ups to shield your body so that when you come across a bomb and it attaches itself to you and you can't shake it off and it explodes, you don't get damaged and die. You get multiple tentacles that you can use. You get parts where you can actually shoot out arrows or create spikes on your back. And you get to use those a few times throughout the game, but that's, not a whole lot. Like, you just do those things and they become part of the main things that you do for a certain area. Because again, that's what Metroidvanias are. You get the power up so that you can move on to the next thing, and maybe you use it a couple more times throughout the entire game, but you don't use it all the time as a main game mechanic. And that's where, it can get a little bit frustrating with this game being so long for what it needs to be, because it's not compounding on the game mechanics. It's not using them in any different or interesting ways. It's just, hey, here's this new mechanic and you use it once, and then maybe a half hour later you use it again for another similar puzzle, and that's it. So there are a lot of beginner type of power-ups that you get that you use once in the game, and then you never use it again at the back half of the game. And it becomes a little bit like, oh crap, that's right. There was so many times where I forgot that I had a certain power up because I didn't use it for so long in the game. And a lot of it is because there's so much stuff going on, and it's not very detailed. It's got that weird pixel art to it that, like old pixel, like Amiga pixel art, where it just feels and looks weird. It's got those just little tiny pixels for certain things. And I hate using certain phrases like overstaying is welcome, but it really did. It needed to be a lot shorter. Trim the fat of the game, and it would have been a much better experience. That's a very dark, very evil type of game. You are just this blood-soaked monster, and all you are doing is eating, innocent scientists and things like that. And you are ripping them to shreds. When you come across a human, you bite them and you throw them, and it just like a dog violently shaking, an animal that they caught or something like that, where it's just ripping it to shreds, and you're hearing them shriek and scream, and it's crazy. So I thought it was really interesting, but I just would have liked a much shorter experience. By the end of the game, I was just getting mad that the game wasn't ending. And the game should never do that, because I was getting mad for, like I said, several reasons. The map was so frustrating to go, where do I go now? That I literally had to pull up a YouTube video a couple times just to find out, where the heck do I go? But it's hard to do that when you have no map either. So you're sitting there watching this video of all the things that you did just to go, oh, that's how I get to that other area. oh, okay, cool. And, that's all I needed. I just needed a 5-second clip of, hey, this is the place that you need to go next. But you don't know how to get there because there's no map. So it's a cool game, but it's not worth finishing. It really isn't. There's like I said, no story. There's no reward system for getting all the containment units broken up and getting all the extra health and extra shield and stuff like that. There's no there's some weird parts in it too, and I thought this was going to play into the game a little bit more, but it just feels like an idea that just was implemented but never actually done anything with. You actually control humans at some point. The game fades out and you control a human a couple of times, but the human dies from an explosion, I think. I can't remember. And then that's it. Like you take on this, like, what looks like a government agent that's kind of investigating what's going on, but nothing happens. They just die and that's it. It's utterly pointless. It's really, really weird that they put that in this game and then did nothing with it. You have no connection to the character, so when they die, you feel nothing because, again, there's no story. It's just a nameless, literally faceless human character that you control for about 30 to 45 seconds. They die and no big deal. Who cares? They don't have a name. They don't have family. They don't have backstory. They don't have any relevance to the game itself. So why does it matter? Why was I having to control that character? And it's a hardcore stop from the way the game plays too. Like the human characters are so slow. And yes, there's a run button so you can actually do stuff, but it's very clunky. You use a lot of ladders when controlling the human character, and getting up and down and off the ladders is just kind of obtuse and clunky. So it's a weird game. It's cool. It's definitely not worth $20. I am so glad I did not spend my money on that game. Having Game Pass and having all these other games that I've been playing on it and then playing that too, I was like, oh, cool, awesome. I didn't spend any money. It took a little over 4 hours to finish and complete, and I'll never, ever play it again. I think it's a really cool tech demo, but that's kind of what it is. It's a tech demo. It's not a hardcore, massive game. So that's Carrion, which, again, I think it's a really cool and interesting idea. It's super violent, but just, it's not really worth it. For especially for $20, but it's absolutely worth playing for free, for sure. All right. Last game I want to really talk about is a game that I've been really looking forward to, but kind of a little bit, not even a little bit, I'm really disappointed with. Skater XL. The video game world has been without a skateboarding game for so long, and they've been doing updates and remasters and ports and all that stuff, but nothing really has come close in the last several years. And all at once, basically, there was 2 games that got announced: Skater XL and Sessions. Both of which look like they are trying to do the skate version of games, not Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. And again, a couple of months ago, we got the announcement that Tony Hawk's going to have a remaster out literally within just over a month from now, which I'm super excited about. But it's a game that I just replayed through. I played through the Tony Hawk series just a couple months ago. So I wanted something new. And when Skate XL and Sessions got announced, I was super excited. And when it came on early access, I played the demo of it, or I played the beta or alpha or whatever you want to call it, of what was available. And it was super, super bare bones. Like, it was like, hey, here's our physics engine, done. So I played it for like 5-10 minutes and never thought about it again until a couple months ago when they announced, hey, Skater XL is going to be coming out in version 1, coming out of early access in a couple months. And I was like, oh, let me boot it up to see what it's like. And I just play around with it for a few minutes. So I did, and I went, oh, there's really still not a whole lot. There's 2 maps, and, that's kind of it. It's just kind of a sandbox. So I was like, well, man, this beta it must be old. So I waited, and then last week they finally said, all right. I mean, after a delay too, they were like, oh, it's going to be out in June, beginning of June. Now it's August, and it came out late July. So just a little over a month and a half, maybe 2 months roughly, of this game finally coming out of early access, coming out version 1.0. I loaded up finally on Wednesday. It's Sunday today, so just a few days ago. And I went, all right, what am I going to do with this game? Like, I'm ready. I'm excited. I've been waiting for this game for years. I just haven't played it really. So let's see what's new. And you get dropped in after a little tutorial of how to play the game, how to skate and do a couple tricks. And they give you this big open schoolyard to play around in. And I went, oh, all right, cool. So I did that and just skating around for a couple minutes and trying to do some grind some rails and stuff like that, but nothing. There's no characters, nothing, no life whatsoever. And I was like, huh. And so I started watching a couple videos, and Giant Bomb was talking about it. Jeff was talking about it. And he basically was kind of mirroring my thoughts of, wow, I really, really thought this would have been more. This feels very unfinished for a 1.0 game. It feels like, hey, we created some cool maps. We got the physics down. We got a really cool trick system. But that's it. There's no story, there's no characters, there's no nothing. It's just a sandbox, and it is up to you. And this is where you really have to understand the mentality of the designers to kind of understand what the game actually is. This game is a inspiration tool. That's what this is. It's not a video game. It's an inspiration tool that you can play around with to get inspiration to go out into the real world and actually skate. It is a tool that allows you to kind of design your own ideas of skate runs, basically, and you can do a bunch of tricks and practice and practice and practice and practice in this game to create the best way of, making runs in real life on a skateboard. And this would be even this game right now, as it stands would be cool if it was more polished. The game is still pretty buggy. It is, it has a lot of features that are super unnecessary. It's got some customization, but not a whole lot. It has it has real world brands in it, like America Blind, Trans World Skateboarding, stuff like that, where it's got these brands of shoes, etnies, Vans, clothing, and skateboarding parts, skateboard parts, sorry. Like trucks and wheels and decks, but not a whole lot, not enough from what I've seen. And it just feels really bare bones, like there's just not enough to warrant either version 1.0 or it to be even something that's in there. Like, why did they need to go license brands out? I'm sure that cost a lot of money to get those brands in there. So who knows what all that stuff is. It's just not enough for this game to be a game itself. And one of the biggest reasons why I'm really disappointed in this game is because, like I said, it just feels lackluster. It feels like there's no life. It's a lifeless, quote unquote, game. If you bail out, like in Skate, that was one of the best parts of Skate was the Hall of Meat, the bailing out and, ridiculous ones, getting your skull cracked open, having the x-ray stuff and just seeing your character ragdoll and die in horrible ways that looked very painful. But in this, and obviously it's not, the design of the game, but when you bail out, it's not a ragdoll effect. It's more of I said in my review, an action figure effect, where you have an action figure that is very stiff. And if you drop it on the ground, it might bend a little bit, but it's not a ragdoll. It doesn't feel like there's a life in these characters. They are not living, breathing characters. They are just puppets. And that's very much the reason why this game just feels incomplete. And I'm sure they're going to be creating more and giving more content to this game and everything like that, but it's not enough. You look into the characters' eyes and they look lifeless. They look like plastic figures. They're lifeless black doll's eyes. So basically, I got really bummed out when I actually loaded that game up and realized, oh crap, there's nothing to do. The one thing that I actually did kind of have fun after I, spent like 10, 15 minutes just skating around these maps, switching in and out and just going, all right, cool. I did a trick. I did a kickflip and stuff like that. There is challenges where it teaches you the trick system. It's basically a tutorial, but it's actually kind of cool because and this is what the game should be, just tweaked up a different way, where you are required to do a trick. So when you click on, hey, I want to learn I need to complete the challenge for a kickflip. It says, all right, here is a ghost outline figure skater that is going to show you how to kickflip. And you got your controls on screen. They have an Xbox controller on screen to show you what the character is doing and the movements on when and how to do it. So if you want to do a kickflip, you hold down the right stick, and then as you kind of preload your jump, and when you're ready to ollie, you let go of it, and then you'll jump up and you'll ollie. And in midair, you take the left stick and push it left, and that will kickflip it. And then you just let go of you just push it left and let go, and you'll perform the kickflip, you'll land it, and then you completed the challenge. What's kind of cool about the challenges is that they're all not in the exact same spot. They're all set up like, hey, this is a prime part of the map to do this trick. And it compounds on difficulty and different tricks, and it teaches you the style of the game and how the tricks work. And it also gives you some fun objectives, kind of. Here, do learn how to do a manual, and then learn how to do a kickflip into a manual, and then learn how to kickflip into a manual and then kickflip out of the manual. Like it adds to it, and it's really cool, but there needs to be some style and flavor to it, because like I said, right now it's not really a game. There's no flavor text, there's no character interactions, there's no story, there's no narrative at all. It is just, you are nameless dude skating in nameless place, and have fun. Like, that will only get you so far. And they, again, also licensed out a couple actual real life skaters, but they all just are, basic generic characters with, I'm assuming facial features, maybe scanned in or maybe created that way for the game. But that's it. Like, you can't really get any personality out of the characters at all. And yes, it is nice to have those, brands in there, but there's not enough. Same thing with the characters. There's not enough customization to warrant that stuff. If you wanted to save time and money, they should have just created spent a couple days creating, 15 or 20 different characters and then call it a day. No character creator because you just have preset characters, and that's good enough for the game because it doesn't matter. There's no reason for it to be this bare bones this many years after the game has been out in early access for so long. And they've just, I'm assuming, I really have no idea how long it took for development and what they spent their time on because, like I said, the levels and the trick system have been in place for a couple years. So I really don't understand what they've been doing for this long in this game to warrant hey, all right, 1.0 release. It seems like, I don't want to say lazy because that's definitely not it, but it seems baffling to have this game come out now and say, this is our 1.0 release. This is the game that you paid for in early access. And sure, we'll have some content updates throughout the year and blah, 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 but what you see is what you get. And especially this is the crazy part. So in early access, I believe it was $20. And that was a lot of money for what you got in that game. Because like I've been saying, it's not been a whole lot. I believe I got it on sale for either $15 or $10. I can't remember. It was a while ago. But with this 1.0 release, they actually jacked up the price to $40. They doubled the early access price. And that game is absolutely not worth $40. Like I said, it's a fun experience, but I wouldn't call it a game. And I don't understand why they think it's $40 worth. The video editor in it is okay, but it's not amazing. And it is really cool to take screenshots and do video clips. And I've been seeing a lot of people really spend time. I've seen people who've spent literally thousands of hours in this game and created some really cool skate videos out of this game. And that's actually what I wanted to do. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to buy it. When it was announced and, it was on sale and I actually bought it, I went, well, when this game comes out, I want to actually make like a skate video like my friends used to. And I had that intention, but with the way the game is and the controls are really hard to actually kind of pull off a very good stunt or a trick, it's going to take a while for me to actually be good at that. And then doing in-game video editing is it's rough for me. I've never been a fan of that type of stuff. And yeah, I don't care that much to spend a majority of my time with it. So that's Skater XL. It's interesting if you like skating games. Obviously, like I said, Tony Hawk Remastered 1 and 2 is coming out in just a little over a month. And Sessions, from what I've played, again, I've only played about 15 minutes of it. Very shallow so far, but more than what is in Skater XL, and it's definitely cheaper. If you like a sandbox environment, because like I said, it's really cool when you just you have like an objective here, do this trick and make it look cool. Like I want to do the trick and then view it from different angles and get a screenshot, put it in a review and things like that. Like I actually spent a good chunk of time just doing a trick a couple of times or just bailing out and just getting funny poses and then going into the video editor and just getting a couple really funny or cool looking screenshots. I spent probably about half an hour doing that the other night, and that was really fun. The challenges are really, really fun too, but it's not enough and definitely not worth $40. So that's Skater XL. It's a bummer, but that's that game. So we've got some games that have been coming out, but it's not the, normal gigantic release, a floodgate of games like it has been in the past couple of years, especially in the summer. Like the summer used to be the summer drought for a reason. Then everyone started realizing, hey, we can release games whenever we want. It really doesn't matter. And that it was really fun while it lasted. But man, I thought last year was kind of an abysmal year for gaming because there just wasn't all that much. But this is absolutely rough. It is just a one or two bigger indie games, and that's about it. We are getting nothing. And especially with a console year, especially with all these games that should be coming out in a couple months, we know nothing about them. I really like Assassin's Creed, and Valhalla looks okay. The setting seems kind of interesting, but after God of War 2 years ago, like the Norse stuff, I'm just not super into. Especially coming off of Odyssey, where that was just so pointlessly, needlessly extended. The world was too big, and they're saying it's bigger than Odyssey. Like that's unnecessary. Give me a tighter experience. I don't need this game to go on for 90 plus hours. Give me a tighter experience. But hey, they might pull it off, because I said the same thing about Origins. I was like, ugh, or Assassin's Creed Origins looked like garbage, and I played it and I was completely turned around. I love that game, and it's made by the same people. It's made by the same Ubisoft development team that created Black Flag and Origins, which are the absolute best Assassin's Creed games. So taking both of those games and, that team that created both of my favorite Assassin's Creed games, sign me up. I'll definitely play it. Watch Dogs, Legion looks okay, again, at best. Doesn't really interest or excite me at all, but I loved Watch Dogs 2. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't really care about it. It was just more, hey, this is a fun game. I'm having fun with it. So I think Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Watch Dogs Legion will be decent, but that's kind of all we got. We really don't know. And Spider-Man for PS5, again, it's not a $60 game. It's a side story with Miles Morales, which, hey, cool, awesome. Continue that story. I really liked Spider-Man on PS4. But that's not enough to get me to buy two $500+ consoles at all. And I don't even want to get into it. I've been going too long, but definitely the offering there is just, they haven't shown enough at all to help me, get me really excited about spending this money on these new consoles, which again, I'm skeptical about the performance and all this stuff. I don't get really misled by marketing hype for something, for technology especially. Oh, this has this much read and write speed, blah, blah, blah. Like in the real world, no, it doesn't. Those are all inflated numbers. Those are test scenarios. It's never that good in the real world. Oh, it's going to be instantaneous loading. It won't be instantaneous. It will be near instantaneous, which we already have. If you have a decent PC and you load a game on an SSD, you already have near instant loading. I never see loading screens. You have loading screens that have tips on them. You can't even read the full sentence before the game actually loads. Like, that's not really a big deal to me. Like instant/near instant loading is nothing to me because I already basically have that. Will it be better? Who knows? Maybe it'll be a little bit better. Cool. Awesome. But that's not a selling point. That's not going to get me to spend $500. I want to see the dashboard. I want to see what these consoles can do. I want to see games running on them, and I want to be able to, go, all right, cool. Your Ratchet and Clank, that looks cool. Like the transforming worlds around the character and stuff. Again, it looks cool, but that's marketing. You cannot believe all of that stuff. Show me an actual gameplay. And yeah, that was gameplay, but I'm not trusting that, you know? I want to see it with someone actually playing through a good chunk of that game, not cut CGI trailers and not, closed off demos that they were able to not even have a HUD or anything like that. So we'll see. All right. I talked long enough. Thank you very much for listening to the Game or Die podcast. I, again, have been your host, Ryan Moore. If you want to read more reviews and things like that and my thoughts on games and movies and TV and all that fun stuff, you can go to gameordie.net. And I'll probably be talking about some comics next time because I've been reading a lot lately, too. That's what I've been kind of doing in some of my free time. So look out for that in the next episode, and I'll talk to you about video games next time.